"You belong to us now." The inmate growled behind her, his breath hot and heavy against her ear, words dripping with menace. Officer Daniels didn't flinch. She stood locked in place, hands flat on the cold metal table in the middle of the intake block, while the prisoner behind her hovered far too close. Laughter erupted from the surrounding cells, taunts, whistles, pounding fists on steel bars like the walls themselves were hungry for chaos. This was supposed to be a routine transfer, in and out. Drop off paperwork, escort the new intake, return to patrol. But someone had messed up. Or maybe, she'd realize later, someone had set her up. She had been left completely alone in a high-security male wing. No backup, no radio, no visible cameras, and surrounded by dangerous men who didn't see her badge. Only her beauty. She was the only woman in the unit. A white blonde officer with movie star looks, long hair tied tight behind her head, eyes like ice, and bone structure that made half the station talk. And to them, that meant easy prey. "Not so tough without your boys around," one inmate laughed, smirking wide with yellow teeth. Another slammed the bars in rhythm, chanting slowly, "O Fai-cha, O Fai-cha." Others joined in, voices growing louder, darker, uglier. The man behind her, tall, muscled, tattoos crawling up his arms, grabbed her duty belt with a twisted grin. It was supposed to rattle her. It didn't. What happened next ripped the air out of the room. In one vicious move, she spun, smashed her elbow into his throat, then slammed his face into the metal table. He collapsed to the floor, gasping, choking. For a second, the whole cell block held its breath. Then chaos exploded. Another inmate lunged. She ducked, twisted his wrist back until he screamed, then drove her knee into his ribs. A third charged from the side. She flipped him with brutal grace and cracked his skull against the floor. Blood splattered, bodies groaned, but she didn't stop. She moved like lightning wrapped in rage, fierce, fluid, untouchable. They swarmed her like wolves. She answered with fire. Because Officer Daniels wasn't just another pretty face in uniform. She was forged for this. Every move was survival. Every strike came from a place deeper than training. Years ago, she'd watched her father, a decorated Marine, lose his mind to PTSD, mocked by neighbors, abandoned by the system he served. She'd cleaned up his broken glasses off the kitchen floor more times than she could count. She knew what real helplessness looked like, and she'd sworn she'd never feel it again, not for anyone, and definitely not here. One of the inmates grabbed a chair and swung. She ducked, countered with a spinning roundhouse kick, and sent him crashing into the wall. Another tried to lock her in a chokehold from behind. She slammed backwards into the wall, flipped him over her back, and pinned him with her knee. Her chest rose and fell in rapid bursts. A cut on her lip trickled blood. But her eyes, cold, sharp, unshaken. Up on the second tier, a final man stood watching, the largest of them all. The others called him king, the kind of man even murderers didn't mess with. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched her through the bars with quiet calculation. Then finally he smiled. "That's enough," he said, his voice calm, commanding. And just like that, the cell block went still. Silence dropped like a steel curtain. Officer Daniels stood at the center of the chaos, surrounded by crumpled, groaning bodies. She didn't say a word, just fixed her vest, wiped the blood from her mouth, and stared back up at King, like she had bullets behind her eyes. He gave her a slow, mocking nod. "Respect," he said. "Didn't see that coming." She didn't smile, didn't blink. She turned on her heel and walked away, each boot step echoing through the frozen corridor. That's when she saw him, the warden leaning against the wall near the control panel, arms folded, expression smug. "I had to know if you had it in you," he said smoothly. "That's why the cameras were off." Her jaw tightened. "You used me as bait." He shrugged. "And you didn't just survive. You conquered." She stepped past him, slow and deliberate. "Do it again, and I won't be so professional about what comes next." He didn't reply, just watched her vanish down the corridor, every step leaving an imprint of power. The next morning, her name whispered through every block. The same inmates who laughed at her now lowered their eyes when she passed. The same guards who doubted her now stood straighter in her presence. They called her the Reaper, Not because she took lives, but because she took away illusions. The illusion that beauty meant weakness, that being a woman made her soft, that being alone meant she could be broken. 3 days later, she walked back into that same unit. No backup, no weapons raised, just presence. No one jeered, no one laughed, no one spoke. They simply stepped back, eyes low. She was still a cop, still a woman, still impossibly beautiful in a system that wanted her to fold. But now, she was feared, respected, untouchable, and they all knew it. Before we end this story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know how you feel in the comment.